Welcome back. I told y'all I was working on my studio setting, and tonight's topic is about money in a good way when it comes to college sports. So we're agreed. All right. So earlier today, we were talking about this lawsuit. I don't know why people aren't talking about this more. A 2.8 billion with a B dollar settlement stemming from a lawsuit of the NCAA versus House. There were several class action lawsuits out there. A judge ruled on the settlement preliminarily, and $2.8 billion is sitting out there. And if you played or if you know someone that played Division 1 sports, if you were an athlete in Division 1 sports in the United States of America from 2016 to 2021, there's a website you can go claim your retro payments. So earlier today on live, remember I was breaking down I was breaking down the settlement, and I talked about how revenue sharing of $22 million would benefit each university for all athletes. So I want to clarify that. I think earlier I may have said for the football team, it's all athletes across the university's athletics. So you know how you have soccer, golf, tennis, maybe archery, football, basketball, etc. Regardless of what sport you played, if you played Division 1 sports, you can file a claim to receive retroactive payments from 2016 to 2021, right before NIL started, because remember, there was no NIL in 2016, 2018, 2019, 2020. It started in 2021. So from 2016 until NIL began, if you were a Division 1 athlete, regardless of sport, there's a website where you can file your claim. The website opened in October. This is my first time hearing about this. So let's talk about what has taken place since October. Okay. So a judge made a preliminary ruling that approved the settlement in principle. Now there'll be a final ruling in April. However, don't get it twisted. The money for athletes who were Division 1 athletes from 2016 to 2021 is out there. You could start filing a claim back in October. So it says October 18th, 2024, former NCAA Division 1 athlete, former players will be notified of the decision, and claims period will begin for eligible people. Only athletes that participated, that played sports between December 2016 and the beginning of NIL, the NIL era in 2021, are eligible. And it does not matter what sport you play. You could have played golf, you could play badminton if it was a legalized sport, if it was an organized sport at your university. If you were a Division 1 athlete in any sport from 2016 to 2021, you get retro NIL payments. So that was October 18th. Okay. So now listen to this. This was 60 days after the notice went out in October. Now, in 2016 through 2021, if you were in college, I don't know whose address you used. I don't know if they were emailing it to you, but I feel like they should have emailed it to you. But just in case they sent postal mail, you might not live in the same place you did when you were in college. So you may have not gotten a notice. I have not heard about this. I just asked on my last live, why is nobody talking about like how Colorado um severed its ties with its NIL collective because they were making way for the new process expected to be approved in April with revenue sharing, which gives the university also, in addition to revenue sharing, having higher pools of money to pay athletes, they can pay athletes directly. A part of the settlement is the revenue sharing, paying athletes directly, and retro payments. That means back pay. So if you were a Division One athlete, 2016 to the beginning of the NIL era in 2021, you qualify. You should go file a claim. And we're not talking about $5. So if you play, so there's an example out here. Stay tuned for the example. So 60 days after the notice went out, October 18th, 2024, and I don't know if it went to your mom's, your parents' house, or if it went to your college apartment, or you just never got it. It says the projected amount of money to be distributed will be publicly made available. The final number for specific individuals depend on a number of factors. I would not let that stop me. I already went to the website. All you have to click is file a claim. So 105 days after they notified you, if you were a Division One athlete from 2016 to the beginning of NIL in 2021, on January 31st, 100 days after October 18th, the window for people to submit claims for compensation or to opt out of the settlement or bring objections to the court closes January 31st. Today is January 15th, 2025. January 31st, 2025 is when basically the window closes. So now from now, if you didn't know about it until now, if you didn't know about it till now, hey True, welcome, welcome. If you didn't know about it until now you know. And you have until January 31st to go to this website. I put the website in my last live in the description, but I'm going to read it out here. To file a claim before January 31st. If you hear about this after January 31st, hey, Gracie. So if you hear about this after January 31st, you're going to be upset. So, Gracie, remember we were on live and I said, I want to find out more about these retro payments that they're making as a result of this lawsuit, the settlement from the lawsuit of the NCAA versus the House. The timetable is due to statute of limitations. They're going back to 2016. So from 2016 to the beginning of the NIL era, any Division One athlete is open to file a claim. There's a website. It's been out there. The official announcement was made in October on the 18th. The window to file a claim closes January 31st, 2025. So, Division One athletes, when you were in college, maybe the notice went to your parents' house, maybe it went to your old apartment address, your old college address, maybe you didn't get it, maybe you got it. But if you're in the chat and you got the notice that, hey, since you played Division One sports at our university from 2016 through the beginning of the NIL era, we have some money for you. All you have to do is file a claim before January 31st, 2025. So on April 7th, this is the next step. So I've listed off 3 steps. This is the last step. April 7th, 2025, the court will have a hearing for the final approval of the settlement. A final approval of the settlement or bring objection to the court. Okay, excuse me. Okay, so I already read one objection. So from now to January 31st, you can file a claim. If you read the lawsuit or you read the settlement and you don't agree with how they're going to make the payments, you can file an objection. Excuse me. You can file an objection. One objection I read was from a former player from Texas A&M who was a preferred walk-on. He was upset because it looks like they were trying to disperse the payments to scholarship athletes, not walk-ons or not preferred walk-ons. So that's one of his objections. So people who object to who how the payments are being dispersed have until January 31st to file an objection and you write a letter to the judge. There are examples of the letters online. If you feel like, hey, I was a Division One athlete and I contributed, but I was a walk-on, so I don't qualify, then you get the chance to object. And they've already made adjustments to the settlement, and they will continue to make adjustments as objections come in. So I would not, I would object regardless of what it is. I would object. And then maybe they'll put in an amendment section pertaining to your grievance regarding how payments are dispersed. But let's talk about these payments, okay? So if you go to other websites, this is all over the internet and nobody is talking about this. But I bet when January 31st at midnight hit, they're going to want to talk about it. They said, for an example, if you played football, now you can play any sport, but this is an example. You are likely to be able to claim $135,000 to be paid over a 10-year period. That's $13,500 for 10 years. I'm just saying, if you had a son, a niece, a nephew, I don't it doesn't matter. They could play lacrosse. Hell, if pickleball was out back then and the school had pickleball, they could have played that. That's a lot of money. And people are probably thinking, well, the football players and the basketball players are going to get more. That's probably true, but that doesn't mean you won't get money. You never know. You could get a payment for $700 for the next 10 years every year. Hey, that's not bad. So, does the notice specify college scholarship players? I believe it does, and I think that that's one of the grievances. It's long, so you have to go back and read it. But I think when I read the objection, the objection that came in was from a preferred walk-on. So yes, and the argument was, hey, just because I was a walk-on doesn't mean I didn't contribute greatly to the team. So now that argument is out there, the objection, the judge will have time to review it for more fairness. So if you had a scholarship or if you were a walk on, I would not hesitate to write an objection because we know walk ons play. Think about Cash Cleveland for Colorado. He's a preferred walk on, regardless of your walk on status. Uh, Charlie Offerdahl. So let's say if this was 2016, 2017, and Charlie Offerdahl and Cash Cleveland were playing for Colorado. Y'all saw them contribute to Colorado. So technically, if they had gone to school during 2016 to 2020, actually, I think Charlie Offerdahl was at Colorado before NIL. If he was, Charlie Offerdahl qualifies. Now, right now, if he was a walk-on then, he might have to write an objection, but I would definitely write an objection. So yeah, this is something else. So it's funny. I was really thinking to myself, why is nobody talking about this? Like this is an obscene amount of money that's sitting out here in retro payments. And when they gave the example that a football player or a basketball player would be compensated $135,000 over a 10-year period, I'm like, that is life-changing money. That is life-changing money. And what if you were an athlete prior to the NIL era and you got injured? That's life-changing money. Y'all have any thoughts on it? So in my last live, in the description, I posted the link to the website where you can file a claim. As soon as you open it, I'm gonna go find the website again. I think it's like college athlete compensation. I'm gonna go look for it. And hey, I'm just saying, like, why is nobody talking about this? There are a lot of people, like, see, if you are like Charlie Offerdahl, I don't know what year he started Colorado, but he was an original Buff. If this is his last year, 2024 is his last year. Minus Fort, he was in school. I think he was in school. He would qualify. Now the question is walk on versus scholarship, but that's the time period. And I would make the objection because Charlie Offerdahl contributed to Colorado's success, so he could definitely make a claim. But yeah, I'm just shocked that people are not talking about this. I'm amazed actually. But that's how a class action lawsuits go. When a settlement, when it's time to pay up, people get like lawyers are like they're quiet. And it's crazy how this is all over stories on the internet, but like on these podcasts, you don't hear anybody talking about this. You don't hear anybody urging people to go file a claim if they were a Division 1 athlete, or go file a grievance if you were a Division 1 athlete that's on non-scholarship. Look up the rules. If you qualify, go to that website, hit that button, file a claim, and get your share. That's why it's there. It's just amazing to me. It is. It's absolutely amazing that people aren't talking about this. Mhm. So yeah, that's what I was like, oh, and there was like a frequently asked questions. Hey, hey, good evening, Kill. Good evening. It said, what year did NIL become valid? 2021. So the statute of limitation is the reason why they're only going back to 2016 for retro payments. And it's from 2016, the way it's worded is the beginning of the NIL era in 2021. So it could be June 2016 to June of 2021 because it's all about the date that the judge approved the NIL. But yep, it's out there. Do y'all know anybody who was in college at that time? Like nephews, nieces, children, who played sports? I wonder, I would love to talk to somebody who didn't know about this and now they're just starting to hear about it. And the window to file a claim closes January 31st. And the window has been open since October. I heard nothing about this. All football season long, nothing, nothing. And football players and basketball players are likely going to reap the benefits the most. But anybody can file a claim. You could have played golf, it didn't matter. I would definitely do it. Even if it was $200 a month for 10 years, I would still do it because you made sacrifices to be a Division 1 or a student athlete. Mm. So yeah, let's see if I can find some facts versus the judge approved um the judge approved frequently asked questions like a FAQ document. I'm going to see if I can find it. Another article says House versus NCAA settlement winners and losers. Athletics take monumental step. Non-revenue sports are at risk. So what they're saying is if your sport doesn't generate any revenue, you know, how you gonna make money? So let's see if they put one out here. So okay, it says the winner in the lawsuit, House versus NCAA, is the players because the players get NIL. My mom just missed the timeline. What? What is she? 2015? Oh no. It says as at long last, players will get a cut of the $1 billion flooding into the NCAA conferences and individual schools. So basically, the players won. There was a lawsuit way back in 2009. To me, that's where all this stems from. A professional basketball player who had played in the US and overseas. He had been gone for a few years. He came back. He was playing like a video game with basketball. He noticed himself in the video. They didn't put any players' jerseys, names on the jerseys, but the school, the stats, the time frame, and it was his likeness. So that's where the image and likeness comes from. And he was one of the first people to file a lawsuit. When did Reggie Bush win his Heisman? Does anybody know? I feel like it was like 2005 or something like that. So yeah, he definitely is outside the window. But y'all see, they gave him his Heisman back. So the losers in the lawsuit of the NCAA versus House is the NCAA. You know, people have tried to sue the NCAA for a long time, many times, including Reggie Bush. And it took this lawsuit in NIL in 2021 to remedy certain situations. Let me see if I can see when Reggie Bush won the Heisman. Your son left in 2015. Oh wow, he just missed it. Oh wow. Let's see. Reggie Bush Heisman. Oh, how y'all like my set? It's green. Green is for money since we're talking about money today. Reggie Bush gets Heisman Trophy back 14 years after they took it away. He won the 2005 Heisman. Who was the 2015 Heisman winner? Cam Newton. Well, you know what? Cam Newton won the Heisman in 2010, right? He qualifies. You see how that works? Cam Newton qualifies. If you play women's basketball, men's basketball, football, golf, tennis, fencing, whatever organized sports your university had, if you were categorized as a Division 1 athlete. So technically, Cam Newton, not that he would do it, but still he could sit down and file a claim because he didn't get NIL. Isn't that something? Wow. And I know people are gonna go, oh, well, those guys are rich. Okay, that's true. However, it is a form, it's a retro payment for NIL. I would do it. I mean, he could give that money to charity. He could put it in a trust fund for his kids. You never know. He might have had some injuries. He could pay off maybe some medical expenses. I doubt it, but the point is, he earned it. Technically, see, that's how it goes. Let's see who else. The winners of the lawsuit, in addition to the players, we know the NCAA are the losers in it. The boosters and fan pocketbooks. Athletic departments are still going to need boosters to make big money contributions. So now that paying players rest with the athletic departments, with the universities, boosters don't have to stress about making sure their team have enough money. See? You know how boosters were all out collecting money? Hey, we want our team to have the best. We want to have good uniforms, good helmets. We want to be able to have, the best facilities. The pressure is no longer on the boosters to fund the teams. That's just something now that you do as an act of kindness because you care about the team or the university. So now the onus is on the university. So revenue sharing works like this. Each team can spend up to 22, I mean, excuse me, each university can spend up to 22% of the revenue generated, right? And it's like it goes into a pool and everybody can get like 22%. And that 22% will be paid to athletes across the university's athletic programs. So golf, hockey, now you know what? Does cheerleading fall into athletics now? If it does, then cheerleaders can get NIL. See? See how that's gonna work? I wonder if cheerleading, which technically is a sport because they have competitions they win, but they could be a revenue generating sport because they go to competitions and they win prizes. And then you have the basketball team. We know they generate money through ticket sales, etc., right? I think it said that the schools that play in the March Madness tournaments get $2 million for playing. You know how the football teams got money for playing in the Celebration Bowl, say with Jackson State or the bowl games for Colorado, like the Alamo Bowl. So now the basketball teams are getting compensated for playing in like the March Madness tournaments. So in addition to that $22 million to be paid across, say, Colorado's 300 some odd athletes, um, the basketball team gets an additional $2 million that they could tap into, unless that has to go into a pool for revenue sharing. It could. I'm not sure. It's new, so I'd have to look it up. Cam didn't have an injury that precipitated his retirement. Oh, okay. Okay. So the loser is a competitive balance. Power conference schools are preparing to share in a neighborhood of 20% media rights revenue with the athletes. So basically they're saying that it used to be Power 5, but now it's a Power 4. There won't be that competitive advantage anymore. Like Michigan is was said to have paid Bryce Underwood $10 million. I don't know what for because he hadn't even gone there yet. So that might be why we're having these revisions to NIL, the tightening of the rules. Because that looks like pay for play because he hadn't played yet. But then they could say if he's never played, he decommitted from one school and committed to another one. So I don't know. That's where the gray areas come in at. The winner is the NCAA tournament. While a large portion of the bill for the House settlement is falling on other 27 Division One conferences, which will make tuition go up, then on the Power Four, there's a silver lining for the little guys. Preservation of the NCAA tournament. The settlement essentially tethers the power leagues to form its own postseason hoops championship, even less likely than it was before. Oh, wow. Okay, that's going to be interesting. So y'all got to read this. I'm going to put if anybody could just Google like CBS Sports, the article is entitled House versus NCAA Settlement Winners and Losers Athletes Take Monumental Step, Non-Revenue Sports at Risk. If you can put that into a link into the chat, that would be cool. If not, I'll do it after the live. So that was one article. That was CBS Sports. There's so many articles on it. You think people will be talking about this, but they're not. I've read at least four different. Here we go, right here. Settlement documents filed in college athletics class action lawsuit. That's how they're entitling it. That was in July of 2024. Yep. So the settlement calls for total back damages, so that's retro pay, of approximately 2.78 billion with the B dollars to be paid over 10 years, equating to approximately 280 million annually, with distribution of back damages as determined by plaintiffs. Going forward, so basically, that's $2.78 billion with the B for Division One athletes. Hold on one second. For Division One athletes, regardless of sport, between 2016 and at the beginning of the NIL era, and you have until January 31st to file a complaint or file an objection with the judge. There are examples of objections out there. Um, so I mean, I wouldn't let it stop me. I unfortunately I that wasn't my era. But so here's some of the unresolved issues in the settlement as of July. Now things were resolved in October. There were things resolved in December. Issues were resolved in October and December. What I'm reading is from July, but just listen to what they were. Some may have been resolved, some might still be open issues. It says while approved of the settlement would be significant step forward, there would still be pending issues to be addressed that highlight the continuing need for federal legislation. The issues include now, this is what the NCAA wants. The NCAA wants there to be federal regulation or legislation in place of NIL. So, one pending issue is the settlement does not resolve the patchwork of state laws, many of which may conflict with the settlement these laws will need to be preempted by federal legislation for the settlement to be effective. So the settlement can move forward with its local patchwork of laws. But the NCAA is pushing for federal legislation. And we're getting ready to change presidential administrations. We're going to what some deem a more conservative administration who might not really like what's going on, but the settlement has already been approved. Well, it's been preliminarily approved. April 7th is the date of the final approval as people file claims until the 31st and submit objections to the payment distribution process. Second pending issue is the settlement does not address ongoing efforts to designate student athletes as employees under state and federal labor and employment laws. So, see, some people want the student athletes to be deemed employees. I don't think they should be deemed employees, though. I don't look at it like that. I look at it as they're being compensated for a service that they provide. Now, there are some people in the corporate world that provide services. They're not employees, they're contractors. There are also other categories. So, to me, student athlete it is a category that should just qualify for non-employee. So, if you have employees, contractors, student athletes, that's just another box to check. It said, so their efforts, they're trying to, so that's what they're trying to do. And the question is, okay, if I get this money, which is a retro pay, generally in corporate America, if they give you retro pay, they take taxes out. Is the settlement that you receive taxable? So if your settlement is 135,000 over 10 years because you played football, is it taxable? And then you get the difference paid out over 10 years. And what happens if you pass away? If I pass away, is the settlement transferable? So the settlement could be approved April 7th of 2025. Somebody passes away April 7th of 2026. What happens to their settlement? See, stuff like that. That's the kind of questions that I like to ask. Don't let nobody that sports are not a big. Oh no, sports is a huge business. Absolutely. I'm gonna pin that one because that's facts. Yeah, sports is a huge business. And they're even changing one of the rules that if you are on a football team, I know it is I'm a football fan, so if you are on a football team and you play on a nationally televised game, you get paid. You get compensated because they're using your name, your image, and your likeness on television. I was like, whoa, how long have people not realized this been going on? People been playing like football on TV for a long time. So it looks like it's going back to 2016 to catch the guys who played football in Division One sports who were predated NIL. Isn't that something? So see, they're changing the rules, and because you're changing the rules, you have to go back and compensate people with these retro payments. $2.8 billion sitting out there, $2.78 billion sitting out there for retro pay from 2016 to the start of the NIL era. Is that not something? Oh, let me know. Thumbs up if y'all like my new setting. Remember, I tried it one time. The light it was like too dark, so I made some modifications, and I just kind of want to see is it can you see more of the set better? So yeah, so that's the unresolved issues. Let's see. I don't know if I have. Let me see if I can find objections to the House. I know I read one earlier. Objections to House NCAA. It's crazy how people not talking about that though. You would think this would be everywhere. You think every sports podcaster would be talking about this. House. Let's see. Are y'all still out there? Yep. Sports is a huge, huge business. Let's see. So, yep, it's a lot going on there. So other objectors to the settlement have criticized the damages amount as too low, arguing that the revenue sharing amount with athletes is significantly less than what it should be. Although the settlement pegs damages at roughly 2.8 billion, objectors assert that the proper number is north of $6 billion. Would agree. I mean, how many student athletes they were on Division One? And I'm looking for the tiers. Like, are they saying for the categories? This is it's amazing to me that nobody's talking about this, and the fact that you can file a claim until January 31st, or you can file an objection to January 31st, 2025. It's amazing to me that they haven't talked about that. Ooh, yep, this something else. But it's a good read. If you like a legal eagle and you like this, if you're intrigued by these types of things, then yeah, I would think that this is something that you will find interesting. And once again, I'm actually floored that nobody's talking about this. I was shocked that more podcasters weren't talking about Colorado cutting ties with its NIL collective. The was it the 5340 or whatever it was? So yeah, it's a lot there. So the judge has so once the deadline passes for January 31st, for claims to be filed, for objections to be raised to the judge, and I believe you have to put it in writing, addressed to the judge. Um, After that, April 7th is the day, the decision that the final approval that will come from it. So let me see if I can find let's see. It says sour grapes. Lawyers battle over landmark settlement to pay college athletes. Attorneys from a lawsuit, O'Banion versus NCAA case, challenged the House settlement terms with a formal objection. The filing, which seven current and former athletes signed, say the terms range from unfair to flat out illegal. Whoa. Yeah, see, this is interesting. You see Colorado, UCF, and other few schools moving forward, preparing for the future, which has been preliminarily approved. And then you hearing all these objections. You know we're changing gubernatorial administration. I'm not. It's not the governor. Law, presidential administration on a federal level, from one type of ideology to another. And then the deadline is until April 7th. This is interesting. This is very interesting. And see, normally when colleges, universities, like institutions the size of Colorado move forward with something that's in prelim approval, like they typically kind of know what's going to happen, and I'm going to make the assumption that that's the case. But if that is the case, they kind of know. They maybe know who the judge is. Her name is out there. Maybe they know how she generally rules in favor of these situations, and then the judge could change. I'm like, this is something that you definitely want to keep your eye on, um, because I find it fascinating that nobody's talking about it. Nobody, except for me. I'm not a nobody, but I find it completely fascinating that nobody's talking about it. It's in prelim approval. It needs a final approval, and there's so much change between objections, presidential administrations, and even possibly the judge. If somebody wants to sway it another way, knowing that the NCAA is pushing for federal regulation and employee status for athletes, student athletes, it'll be interesting to see when we get to April 7th what happens. I don't know if y'all still out there, but I am. I'm reading. I'll try to post the links and the to some of the documents that I've read. So y'all can maybe, if you want to know about it, look into it and see for yourself what it says. I think the settlement language is interesting. in itself. And I think the objections are interesting because when you first hear $2.8 billion and you have no an idea, you have no idea of the number of athletes that played Division 1 sports that would qualify. It sounds like a lot of money from 2016 to the start of NIL without knowing what that number is of people who could qualify because they played the sport, they qualified. Oh, hey Gracie, thank you. You have no idea. Okay, here's ESPN. ESPN posted about it September 4th, 2024. And I didn't hear anything, but maybe I missed it. California, it's a California-based federal judge overseeing the trio of antitrust lawsuits that could reshape college sports will weigh in. So it is one judge, Claudia Wilkins. See, her name is out there. She's in California. You know how California, they generally, how they sometimes, they seem to be not as conservative as some other places. She asked questions, gathered information from plaintiffs. Her approval is the next, but not the last step toward implementing a system that will bring unprecedented level of change to major college sports. This is interesting, y'all. It's interesting. I mean, I like what they're proposing. I don't like the NIL collective because you could just see that people were misusing that and abusing the system and trying to interfere with recruiting and had, players out here doing things for $10 here and there when, you know, the person over the NIL is being interviewed and, UT is brought up that, they paid their linemen $50,000 if they had 5 linemen. They got 10,000 each or 50,000 each. I don't even know what it was. But the point is the person over the NIL for the football team for Colorado was asked point blank period. Um, is this something that y'all can do? And he said, yeah, we'll be competitive. Explains a lot, I think. So So yeah, this is all just a very I guess I'm intrigued. I don't know if the rest of y'all intrigued, but I'm definitely intrigued because there's a lot of money at stake for athletes who didn't get paid NIL. And I understand the statute of limitations cut it off, where it couldn't, it can only go retro back to 2016. But with it not being talked about, I'm just wondering how many athletes are out there that could qualify, hit a button, file a claim, but don't even know about this. So if y'all run into anybody that said, "Oh my God, I heard about this and I filed a claim," I definitely want to talk to them because I want to know how they found out about it. Because they said they mailed notification. I'm like, I don't know if that meant email, postal mail, or both. But this is 2025. We're almost 10 years removed from 2016. The address that you have in 2025, 90% of the chance is not the same one you had in college. I know mine isn't. I don't know about y'all, but mine isn't. My dorm address, come on now, or my college apartment in town where I went to school. Absolutely. So it's just uh it's just interesting. So I wanted to come on here and talk about that. How y'all doing? What y'all have going on? Is there anything y'all want to talk about? We have like 15 minutes left. Anything y'all would like to mull over, talk about? And was there something yesterday we were talking about that we didn't get to? I know we talked about NIL yesterday. We talked about the collective, Colorado cutting ties. Now we know why. Now we understand that Colorado will have greater control over NIL and paying players directly. Players can still have NIL deals. The university can still work with the collective, but they're going to use the Buff Club. They can have it come internal, in house, and let's see what else. Um, they have the CUNIL exchange where sponsors can contact and interact and collaborate via a portal directly with the athletes. So the athletes can be reached out to directly. So it's not like there's a gatekeeper stopping someone from, say, going to Jimmy Hart Jr. and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you about endorsing our campaign. And I checked the CU exchange. It seems pretty straightforward. It seems pretty straightforward. Um, so I don't know who manages that, who updates it, but it's still out there. Let me see if I can find one of these objections. Let's see. I want to find one of the objections. The one I read from the young man from Texas A&M made a lot of sense. Oh shoot, the main objections. Oh, I had it. Hold on 1 second. Almost. Objections. Here it is right here. The main objections she has to the settlement is too much of the deal, including its cap on athlete revenue sharing, should be the product of collective bargaining and not settlement negotiations. Okay, that's somebody else to do with basketball. Let's see. There were several lawsuits out there, so it looked like it just got addressed in one fell swoop, like with a class action lawsuit. There was Carter versus, there was a Carter v. a Hubbard v. All of these different. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. Oh, Gracie, since you're still there, how do you like the set, the green set? Or how does it look? I think you're still out there. Let me know. Oh, okay, here we go. Data cited by the objectors since about 380,000 athletes would get about $125 for their labor as college sports athletes, that would amount to less than 7 hours of work per year at the federal minimum wage, which they ridicule as orders of magnitude less than the number of hours. Okay. So they're talking about the amount is less, the amount that they would get in a settlement is less than if they had worked 7 hours a day and was paid minimum wage. It's a lot of objections to this. The objections also chastise the settlement for allegedly failing to include the voice of college athletes. Though the cases were brought by a group of college athletes that included former Oregon and current TCU basketball player Sadana Prince, former Illinois football player Tymir Oliver, former Oklahoma State, now California Panthers football player Chubba Hubbard, former Auburn track and field athlete Kiera McCarroll, and former Duke, now Buffalo Bills football player Dwayne Carter, and Stanford soccer player Nia Harrison. No student athletes were offered a seat at the bargaining table. The statement goes to critique that players' attorneys who stand to receive millions of dollars should the settlement gain approval were speaking for players in settlement talks instead of players speaking for themselves. Again, why is nobody talking about this? This is huge. This is huge. So basically, the lawyers were all in a room speaking on behalf of their clients, and they didn't call in the actual athletes themselves that brought the lawsuits forward. That's crazy. Let's see what else. While the objectors and what? Uh, Cho, Kirk, Fontenot, and Cornelia parties arguably present compelling arguments. They face challenging odds in trying to convince the judge to deny prelim approval. And we know she didn't deny it. So there were people who didn't want her to even approve the preliminary uh, approval. This is interesting. It says the fact that the judge ordinarily grants prelim approval to antitrust cases and class action settlement. That's a fact. Class members like the objectors can opt out of a prelim approved settlement before final approval, preserve their legal claim, and pursue their own cases. What? Okay, what is this about UCF? An analogous sequence recently occurred in antitrust litigation regarding UCF. UCF fighters. Oh, they talk. Oh, not UCF. UFC. Never mind. Forget that. That's something different. Um. Okay. So this is good. I don't know why nobody's talking about this. This the settlement was described as groundbreaking. This type of information is blockbuster. The settlement is groundbreaking, but the objections, uh, the number of objections, what they're objecting to, and the fact that nobody's talking about this is blockbuster to me. I watched Uncle Neely on DMVR podcast. They discussed CP and whether he would be at CHCU next year. Neely said he wasn't worried and he felt good about him remaining with the Buffs. Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere because in my opinion, I think Coach Prime is happy about the future state of NIL, the path forward. Because remember, Rick George sent out the email. Rick George was in the meeting with Coach Prime while all of that was going down, and that was the day I said that they both looked like they were didn't have a lot of energy. Now we know why, because they were trying to get this somewhere and they had to deal with the fact that they were cutting ties with the NIL collective, including probably the leadership of that collective. Um, and whatever happened there, and then, trying to bring on a new squad that will benefit from the new path forward. I think Coach Prime is happy about the revenue sharing. And one thing about the revenue sharing, let's see, how many student athletes does Colorado have? First of all, let's see. Um, how many student athletes does Colorado have? Let's see. Okay, 534. It says the University of Colorado of Boulder sports related financial aid. So this is some financial aid report. A total number of 534 student athletes participate in varsity sports at the school. 278 of whom are male and 256 are female. They receive on average about 22,000 in sports related student aid to attend CU. The average university has anywhere between 400 athletes per college for division 2 schools. Division 3 schools have 350. So it didn't say how many division 1 have. Yeah. Well, shout out to the Colorado Bus for having a cumulative GPA of oh, thank you so much. A cumulative GPA of 3.0 for the team. That's Coach Prime. Love your channel. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Does anybody like the set? I was hoping somebody would tell me also that they like the set. Thank you so much. That is so nice. Who's that? Ronnie. Shout out to Ronnie Rivers. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I didn't know you were out there listening. I appreciate because I couldn't tell how many people were in the chat. I must be missing something here. But yeah, this is awesome. Thank you. I will put this to good use to continue to improve my podcast. Thank you so much. And this is encouragement for me to keep going as well. So I really appreciate this. All right, y'all. So we have like 9 minutes left. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna pin this. Mhm. Yep. Thank you so much. So we have 9 minutes left. We're talking about Colorado Buffs. Okay, let me tell you what we're going to talk about maybe tomorrow. I have a list of topics. Shiloh Sanders, Caden Salter. Yeah. Shiloh Sanders in the NFL draft. Caden Salter. Could he possibly be Colorado's next Heisman winner next year? That's the question. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gracie. That's the question that we're going to talk about. So I'll be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Thank you. Thank y'all. I'm glad y'all like the set. Okay. So today we were talking about money. So I wanted to make sure it was money green so y'all can kind of like, understand the vibe. We were talking about money. I want people to get their money. Again, I'm floored that more people aren't talking about this. I don't care if they pay me $125 every year for the next 10 years. I'm still owed that money. So I want to get it. Thank you so much. And if y'all run into somebody like, and y'all are like, oh my God, so and so's son or daughter played Division 1 sports from 2016 to right before NIL came along. Uh, Tell them about it. And if y'all run into anybody that knew about it, filed a claim or filed an objection or didn't know about it, let me know. I really want to find somebody to interview to talk to about it because I find this absolutely amazing that we're talking $2.8 million. But if every Division 3 school has 350 athletes, Colorado has 500. Let's say every Division 1 university has 500 athletes. How many Division 1 universities? Mind you, this settlement only applies to Division 1 schools. So it will be the number of Division 1 schools times 500 to understand how many people would have to share $2.8 billion, not to be distributed evenly. I think I already read where men's obviously football get the most because they generate the most. And to me, honestly, I think that's fair because some people actually play sports that are non-revenue generating. Like, okay, cheerleading. Let's say if cheerleading is defined as a sport, they generate revenue if they go to a competition and they win. Otherwise, I don't see how they're revenue generating if they're a sport. They might not be a sport. They might be categorized with like the dance team, something like that. But that's also something interesting to look into. I'm the kind of person I would just hit file a claim if I went to college and played sports at D1 schools during that time frame. I would just fill it out anyway and just let them tell me no. I'm not gonna try to scratch my brain to try to figure it out and miss out on back pay, retro pay. And we were just talking about that on a live. I said I think one of the most intriguing aspects of this is the back pay, the retro pay. And a lot of people don't seem to be talking about it. So we'll see what comes up in the next couple of days. But I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me. I appreciate the blessing, the gift. I will use it to I will invest it in my podcast. And I'm glad y'all like the set. I've been working on it. I had to do some trial and error. And I don't know if y'all like to play culture tags, but we play culture tags from time to time. So, and I usually try to tie it into the topic of conversation. So y'all make sure you get your culture up, turn your notifications on, podcast, daily podcast now, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, made possible by people like, who is this? Made possible people like Ronnie Rivers, True, and others that have donated to me. I appreciate it. It says, is the settlement exclusive to D1 schools? Yes, it is. It's D1 schools or what they call Power Five or whatever. Um, yes, it is. It's not for D2 and D3. I think I read where it's Division 1. Yeah, it is, because I made sure that I put that in the caption because I didn't want people getting all excited. And then I didn't put scholarship players versus non-scholarship players because you have until January 31st to send an objection. And there's already one objection submitted to the judge about preferred walk-on status, those players not being eligible, and how that's not fair because they also contribute. So it'll be, like I said, this will be interesting. I think my honey is spicy. Okay. I think the honey is spicy, which means I'm not gonna be able to talk. Yeah, I think Coach Prime is staying Gracie. Okay, guys, I'm gonna get myself out of here. I really, really, really appreciate y'all. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock, same time, same channel. Hopefully, with less allergy issues. I'm gonna say goodnight. I'll talk to you all later. I appreciate you rocking out with me. Until tomorrow, have a good night. Thank you.